Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. I am behind the steel curtain co-editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, as always. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube or Facebook right now, for those of you that are with this one podcast form, you don't know what's happening yet, but all you see is me. Because normally I say, with me as always, is my big brother Rich. But Rich isn't with me right now because he had some things going on this evening. He had a meeting. He's just getting home from it. He will be on the show later. I know that is who you all tune in for. So don't worry. He will be here eventually. But I'm not going to do this by myself either. I'm not. It's still going to be, maybe I shouldn't even call it the Scho Bro Show this week. Maybe I should just call it the Scho Show because we're going to have for you Scho 2.0. We're going Scho the next generation. We've got sitting in for his dad until he's ready to go. We've got Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great.
Now, for those of you that haven't met Kyle before, he's done some things in passing in some of our shows, and he's usually in the live chat. But now you'll get to hear his snark in person and by voice rather than just via his keyboard. So, uncle and nephew, this is great. We get to do part of a show together here. And I think the live chat's going to enjoy this. So let's talk some Steelers. We've got some things going on before we get down to the whole business of everything. Yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute. It's been a big week. I have to say it because it's my first podcast since I've been able to do it. What am I wearing tonight, Kyle?
I can't tell.
You can't tell what I'm wearing again with my hat?
The Juju hat, of course.
I've got the Juju hat. I get to keep the Juju hat for at least another season. Kyle, what do you think of that? Did you think the Steelers were going to land Juju?
I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't surprised by it.
Okay, so
Juju has the loyalty that Mr. Third and Fifth didn't.
No, of course. Well, I mean, granted, Juju's salary ran out and he comes back, and the other one, because he didn't get to be the highest paid receiver 2 years into his contract because that's the way it works.
That just got can't happen.
By that. Yeah. So, not only is Juju not the kind of guy that bails out midway on a contract, he turns down bigger offers. He doesn't go to the crazy Ratbirds. We've talked about this on other podcasts. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
How about overall? Your dad tells me you've been following the free agency stuff. He says that that you keep him up to date as much as anything.
Yeah.
What's your overall thoughts? What's the biggest thing you've noticed or the biggest disappointment? What give me some thoughts on the Steelers free agency so far.
I mean, it's free agency. Anything can happen, and anything is happening.
Okay. So, nothing. I mean, you weren't completely shocked, but you thought, you weren't.
Yeah.
You didn't expect Juju to sign, but yet you weren't completely surprised the way it went down. So,
now,
is there anything that's more surprising? Go ahead.
More surprising? I do not know.
Yeah. What about today? Now this one
wasn't it Cam Sutton? Was it Cam Sutton?
No, it was today was Steven Nelson. That the news came down just before the whole Juju contract on Friday that he got permission to look for a trade. Then there was a report that the Steelers could possibly release him. He asked for his release over social media, and it happened today. So now the Steelers are down 2 of their top 4 corners from last year. What do you think? Big deal?
Yeah, if we don't got to try to get someone else in free agency. If not, I could see us taking a corner if there's a good one, 5 or 6 rounds in.
5 or 6 rounds in. How about the guys on the depth chart now? You've got Justin Lane, who was, a 3rd round pick, but he seemed to kind of fall out of favor towards the end of last year because he looked like he got passed on the depth chart by the undrafted rookie free agent James Pierre. Do you think this is the Steelers that they felt confidence in these guys, that they're really confident? Or do you think it's just, hey, that was the business and we got to roll with that? We couldn't, I mean, Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson were two of the top 4 salary cap hits for the Steelers before they released Nelson. You know, they were number 2 and number 4. So do you think it's just the nature of doing business, or do you think they really think that they have a replacement? Or
they get paid to do it. I have trust that they know what they're doing more than me. So
yeah, okay, that's a good. I don't mind that answer one bit. It's you just kind of trust the Steelers. Hey, well, I don't want to get too far behind on our super chats. We got $20. I mean, Kyle, your very first super chat that you get $20 from
Yay.
Double HH that said, "Gentlemen," and I use that term loosely. "Thanks for keeping us all both entertained and informed. I'm too busy to spend my money because of work, so enjoy some for me." Hey. Well, we appreciate that. This goes to the entire, but they didn't hashtag pay Kyle.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that one there, but it just, it goes towards the entire channel for various things that we do. So we really appreciate that, Double HH. And we've got dingo dollars. Now I got to find it. What's that?
Bloke bucks.
I still like the dingo. I don't know. That one just came up with that. He said, "Good day, Kyle, mate. Welcome to BTSC. Who is your favorite player, and why is it Palomalu?" I'm sorry.
Favorite player.
Who's your favorite player, and why is it Palomalu?
First of all, ever since I can remember, as young as I can remember, I had a Palomalu jersey in my dresser.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first jerseys I remember owning. And I think I had one up until 2nd grade. And then I got Mr. Butt Naked Get Robbed twice. And Mr. 3rd and 5th that I never got to wear except for, when I slapped clown on the back instead of brown.
Or are you one of the many who got that for
Chase
Christmas?
Claypool.
Yeah,
I hope you guys don't enjoy Claypool because
it seems like every time Kyle gets a jersey recently, you could almost say goodbye. But
I debated Tom Brady, so
do you know whatever happened to all of those Palomalu jerseys you had growing up?
Nope.
I do. They're at my house.
Oh yeah, they're at your house.
My sons are wearing them now after you outgrow them.
Yep.
So so we had the Palomalu jerseys as well. But Kyle, you need to talk about some business here, don't you?
Oh yeah, I got to talk business.
Okay.
Some mad business. So, got to start with the story of this business. That is half as good as the business itself.
All right.
So, I lived in Williamsburg, Virginia for 11 years. My dad worked at William and Mary. Yeah, Tomlin went there. Nothing to do with this business. So, William and Mary, they host a football camp every year because they're cool and are big enough to do that. And they would, of course, have NFL players come and stay at the hotel just across the street from the stadium. And eventually, that hotel wasn't doing the best, I guess, and the college bought it. Mm-hmm. And my dad had it for a year and then decided it would be better for us to live on that in that building rather than another one that was farther away so that it would be easier for him. Well, they kept one of the maintenance guys who was a big Steelers fan and kept track of Steelers players that went to the camps. Well, then, how long was it we were living there for? A year. And then he was just like, yeah, Palomalu and Roethlisberger stayed in the suite that you guys are currently living in. And so that makes it so I can say the statement, I have done business in the same place Ben Roethlisberger and Troy Palomalu have done it.
There you go. Hey, I've stayed in that apartment.
Not many people can say that with the degree of accuracy I can.
Yeah, so you're the suite that turned into your guys' apartment because it was a hotel converted
Yep.
into a residence hall, housed not at the same time, I assume,
Not
but
at the same time. Of
both
course
Troy
not.
Polamalu and Ben Roethlisberger. So there you go. That's very interesting that they would come down and do that because yeah, I was going to say
and
where you guys lived was literally right across from the football field at William and Mary.
yeah, and the facilities guy, he when Chuck Knoll would come and stay there, he would have breakfast with him.
Oh wow,
Which was cool. And the same guy that gave me that
trying to figure
that
out
picture.
the picture behind your left shoulder, correct?
Yep.
Yes. So excellent. There you go. So you got this. So wow, sharing.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story. So I'm glad that you got to tell us about your business there, Kyle.
Oh,
so,
and I didn't realize I could say that until like 2 months ago.
Oh, I was going to say you should be telling this story to more people.
Click that was the case for a while. So.
Mm-hmm. So, well, speaking of business, what kind of business are you expecting from the Steelers? This is something that I'm going to be talking to your dad about when he gets on here a little bit later. It's the title of our show. So I figure I wanted to get your thoughts now before we then, let your dad come in and copy all your good ideas. And that is there's a good bit of time. I mean, I got to remember what's the date today. So we've got just over a month.
23rd.
The 23rd, yeah, and the draft is the 29th. So we're less than, not less than, just over a month away from the NFL draft. We're in week 2 of free agency. The Steelers have made some moves, have other things going on, and people talk about draft needs and what the Steelers need, but I don't think they're done. Now, I do want to premise this before we go into it. I kind of had some disheartening news to one deputy editor, Michael Beck, this evening because he was asking about salary cap and things like that. And the Steelers, they saved $8.25 million with the release of Steven Nelson. The only problem is they now don't have Steven Nelson. But with that extra money, I have it estimated. I got an update coming out tomorrow on the website. Steelers are right around. I have them estimated at just under $9.5 million in cap space. But the problem is, it's not like they have all that money right now. I've been saying for a while that the Steelers don't have to save all the money that they need in the fall at this exact moment. Like if they need that extra money come September, they can make other moves as time goes on. But you only have so many moves you can make. And one of those moves is, you can extend some players and you can restructure some contracts. And I had to inform Michael that, all the other moves that they have that they can do isn't going to be quite enough to make sure that they have the cushion they need for the salary cap. This Steven Nelson move, which I think they were trying to extend him and they were way off on the value of Nelson to their team for future years. And therefore that's why things fell apart the way they did. And they knew they couldn't go forward with this cap number they have right now. So sorry, I'm taking a lot of this to set it up. Bottom line is just because the Steelers have this quote unquote extra money from Steven Nelson right now, doesn't mean that they have it all to spend right now. It's going to need to be some of that money that they get to the fall with. So it's not like we're saying, they can go out and spend and they need to add this, that, and the other. There are things they still can and will need to do. They're just not going to go crazy. What do you, is there anything in particular you think the Steelers are going to do? Like maybe a certain position that they're going to sign that you think they'll take care of between now and the draft? I just took 5 minutes to ask that question.
Yeah, I could see them making a move on an offensive lineman.
Okay. Do you see the possibility of maybe if they can get the price down, a reunion with someone like an Alejandro Villanueva, or do you think they might be looking that they might bring in another outside guy?
I could definitely see them bringing back Villanueva if they get the right price.
At the right price, it seems like it always is. I know what you mean. Simply because That I mean, I know some people are really down on Villanueva, and as a pass blocker, he's done a nice job. The question is, I don't know who else is out there that would cost less and play better. That's the big
Me
thing.
neither.
Yeah. So I'm okay if they don't, because he's getting up there, and I could see if they move on. But I'm okay if they find that the last thing we need to do is have to go into and have to make sure we have a high draft pick on a tackle to bring back someone like Al or do another high, not high, but another signing. They did bring in another swing tackle. I don't know. Do you remember? Did you watch? Your dad didn't watch the Super Bowl. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
No.
You didn't watch it either?
No.
So you didn't see the offensive lineman drop the touchdown in the second quarter?
No.
Well, that offensive lineman is now a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh,
that is Joe Haig, who the Steelers signed on Saturday. So the Steelers have a little bit more depth at tackle, but that's
Chief or a buck?
What's that?
Was he a Chief or a buck?
He was a buck.
Okay.
Yes, he was the one that they signed from the Bucks. So I could see, so that was one kind of signing that they do. I could see him maybe doing another. How about on defense? Think they might do anything there? Anything? Maybe bring back a particular player. I thought maybe they would bring back someone like Ola Denier, but he signed with Tennessee. Or any specific position you think that they might need to, do you think they could possibly address?
Maybe get more depth at linebacker.
More depth at inside, outside, or both?
Both.
Both. Okay, I could see that. I don't know. It's funny because inside linebacker, I tell people don't fall in love with people in the draft because next thing you know, they're going to be playing for someone else. But if there's one player in this draft that I'm doing all I can to not fall in love with, it is Zaven Collins. Is it Jeff Hartman no, it wasn't Jeff Hartman. It was Brian Anthony Davis last night at the Hangover was trying to figure out if it was Zaven or Zavin. I'm going to say Zaven until someone tells me I'm wrong. And that if the Steelers were going, I could see them if they were going to go big at inside linebacker, you might as well go big. I think inside linebacker is one of those positions that because they have Spillane and because they have Marcus Allen and because they have UG3, which they have the bodies, but that doesn't mean those are guys that have to make the team. Then you have the player that they just signed from the Lions, who some list him as a linebacker, some list him as a safety. Jeffrey Benedict and I have a Steelers Vertex coming out about him tomorrow. So make sure you check that out at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And I look at inside linebacker almost like I do running back. And that is, I think that's an either or. Because I think if you sign a free agent, then you don't even bother going there in the draft.
Oh, no.
So I think we'll have a better idea of maybe what the Steelers are thinking about adding in the draft based on who they do or don't add between now and then. You think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, because really it's just one guy. We get one guy at inside linebacker, we're good.
Yeah. So if you see the Steelers do that in free agency, then chances are you're not going to see in the draft. And believe it or not, as many people that really want the Steelers to go running back, and I'm warming up to that. I'm fine with the Steelers doing something to improve the running game, although it needs to happen in both the running backs and the offensive line. I'm okay with them doing whatever they think is going to work best. And I think it really is going to come down to how much they're going to be doing running game wise with Matt Canada and his system and whatnot. I'm not falling in love with any one running back. And frankly, I would like it better if they could get their running back not in the first round, but we'll see. But I think if they were to sign another running back, then I think that takes it off the list for draft needs. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because who else do we still have at running back? McFarland, Ray.
Well, no, Ray's wide receiver. Remember, he's
no,
yeah. You were looking at something else. McFarland, Benny Snell.
Yep.
Jalen Samuels. So you already have. I mean, the Steelers keeping more than 3 running backs was actually kind of a big deal. So they already have 3 guys that were on the 53-man roster last year. Well, liar. I'm a liar. They have 4 because Trey Edmonds was on the 53-man roster for a while last year, and they have him back. So it's not like they have to have more bodies at running back, but I do understand that they would want to upgrade their quality.
Yeah, and if we draft a running back, at least one of those guys are gone.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you throw Trey Edmonds into the mix, that there's no way you could keep 5 and Derek Watt and things like that. So, so another position that you listed on defense, I know we kind of got back to the running back, was you said outside linebacker. Yeah, the Steelers don't really have anybody there. I mean, right now they have T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith.
Got to have another body there.
So I don't know about you. I think they're going to have to add. I think they got to add a couple in free agency. You know, let alone if they want to invest in the draft. They need an. I heard someone say this. I can't remember who it was. Was it? I can't remember if it was Jeff or Brian or someone. They need an Alex Highsmith to Alex Highsmith. They need someone that was Highsmith last year to be that guy that's going to be the someone that rotates in. And then, of course, outside linebacker is a great position to use those guys that are your depth pieces for special teams. So I could see them adding that. What I mean, do you think, what about, you mentioned corner and you said about maybe drafting that in the draft. Do you think this, I mean, is that another one of those either or positions now with the moves this year? I mean, they've lost 2, but they were basically carrying an extra corner last year for most of the season. Because I mean, right now they only have 4, so you could go with 5. I know they've done. Generally, the Steelers go 10 defensive backs on the 53-man roster, whether it's 5 corners and 5 safeties or 6 corners and 4 safeties and stuff like that. So, you mentioned draft. So you think they're, that could be where they could maybe find someone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, I don't know that they're going to spend a lot of money, but that's just kind of how they're doing. So I don't want to force you into having to talk too much about this stuff. What other Steelers stuff you want to talk? Okay, no, we've got to tell this. Okay, Kyle, we didn't get to go to any games last year in 2020 because of the pandemic. But tell me about the games you went to in 2019. Which games were they again?
2019, I only went to 1, and that was the Seattle game.
That was the Seattle game. Okay. What about 2018?
Don't make me cry. I went to the Jacksonville game, but we shouldn't have even been playing Jacksonville. Okay. Do you remember why?
Why? You're talking in the year 2018 from the 2017 season. So
yeah.
Shouldn't have been playing Jacksonville because you could say
Jesse James caught that ball.
Jesse James caught that ball. Yeah.
Because that means we would have had the tiebreaker over New England and would have been playing. I don't even know. I don't even care.
Yeah. But it should have been New England and Jacksonville in that round.
We still should have won that game. That was no excuses, but
I'm trying to remember during the 2018 season which game you went to. I can't recall, but I know in 2017
I've only been to 3.
Okay, you were at the Jacksonville game.
The other one was, I want to say it was the 2015, the season that Cam Newton decided he was going to play football and proceed to go 15-1 and lose to the Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
that was a preseason game. When
that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because you were sitting in my seats.
Yep, because we still hadn't started school and you were trying to get rid of them. So family trip to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And you guys made the most of that. You guys went to Kennywood too that weekend, didn't you?
Went to Kennywood. Well, the day after the game.
Yeah. Cause that was the Thursday night preseason game. And, right.
Yep.
Yeah. Cause it was always week 4 with Carolina, but, yeah, your dad's has to be really selective now with taking you to games because it's the Kyle curse.
No, it's the children curse.
Oh, it's the children curse.
Because my sister went to the Buffalo game.
Well, that's yes. Well, I was there with her. Myself, Brian Anthony Davis, Big Bro Scho, and your sister.
And wasn't
Alex.
Tony there hanging out before the game?
We met Tony before the game.
Yeah.
It's funny. We were so focused on meeting Tony. I was basically 5 minutes behind Matty P, who was in from Australia, who before he joined the platform or anything, but wanted to meet up with us. And he was messaging me on Twitter. And it always seemed like we were always 5 minutes apart from wherever we were going to be. And I didn't actually get to catch up with him. But yes, your sister was at that game. And you guys are a little bit cursed. So we've got to break this in 2021. We've got to get back to the stadium.
But my mother is not cursed.
I was going to say, she's undefeated, right?
Yeah. I don't even know what game she went to, but it's all about the children.
There you go. Well, bottom line is the Steelers have never lost a game where your father and I have sat together during the game. But when we go to games where we're both there, we travel together and we don't sit together, it's been the exact opposite effect. But Kyle, we're just a few minutes away from taking our break, which means you're probably going to swap in here because your dad I think he's getting close to ready to go. But I want to give you a couple minutes. Anything else you want to say, Steeler? I mean, you're basically get to jump in as the fan. Phil, like we say, Scho 2.0. You're the next generation. You were filling in for your dad tonight as he was coming in late from a meeting, and wanted to know anything else you want to say.
No, not really. I already said Jesse James caught that ball.
Jesse James caught that ball. We got the story that you lived where both Ben Roethlisberger and Troy Polamalu have stayed, and you're sporting the Claypool jersey, which is you know what, that was a good choice. That was a good choice. So I made that decision after the Philadelphia game. After the Philadelphia game, yeah. Which, by the way, who did you watch that game with on TV?
My dad.
And
you.
That's the game I was at your house for.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
because I was sitting on the other end of the couch because you were.
I took your spot, didn't I?
Well, no, it's really Alex's spot, but that's where I like to watch football.
Yeah. So that was an interesting one. So, but Kyle, thank you so much for filling in for your dad. And that you had a chance to come in here. So now people, when they hear about we got to pay Kyle and things like that, they know what we're talking about. Kyle, I'm sure, which game was it that we did the knee jerk article together? Because
Tennessee.
That was a Tennessee game that we were working on. That
was a fun game. That was a fun game to do.
Yes. So we are trading up Kyle in the way he should go. He is a big time Steelers fan. Sometimes he has to drop knowledge on his dad, which is really good, and we don't mind that at all. That's what you get to do, and of course the live chat's going to be excited. You got to jump back in there in the second half of the show because they're ready for some more Kyle.
Hold up,
okay.
Someone asked this: is Claypool a diva? If Antonio Brown was still on the team, I feel like he could be.
Yeah.
But no.
It takes a special type of person to play wide receiver in the NFL. Not that it takes it, but it seems like they're a different breed. Kind of like, you almost got to be a little bit crazy to be an offensive lineman. It's just a different mentality. And it's just kind of how, you got to be a little bit eccentric anymore to be that wide receiver. So
there's one more thing I would like to say. Jeff, if you're mad at Dave for bringing me on this show, you can just, get on him to pay me, and that'll be great.
Yes, because I didn't tell anyone else at BTSC that Kyle was coming on with you tonight. We just roll with it. So it was a lot of fun. And from your aunt,
oh,
says,
hey.
Good job, Kyle. So
Thank
if you are with us here
money
on YouTube or Facebook, I got you. We'll be taking just a few seconds break here to roll into the second part of the show. If you're listening to us in audio, you can go ahead and click over in part 2. I know some people get upset because of how long the pause is. I'm talking to Brian Anthony Davis to try to get these numbers down, but We will be back very shortly. And once again, Kyle, thanks for joining us. And we'll see everyone else here in just a few seconds.
Thanks, boss.
And we are back, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, while we were making a little bit of switch on the other screen. This is Behind the Steel Curtain co-editor Dave Schofield coming at you again on a Tuesday night. This time I am with my big bro. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
I am doing quite all right. It's been a whirlwind of a day. So I was very, very thankful Kyle could fill in for me. I walked in the door to the house right when you're texting that everything's all but ready to go. And I was glad I'd already set him up to take care of the first half.
And it's funny, even though you could have technically just ran in the door and tried to run do the show, I was kind of looking forward to talking to Kyle.
I got to put on my Pouncy jersey and my Steeler hat. And I'm sorry I hadn't eaten anything since like 11:30 this morning. So I had to get a snack. And most importantly, I had to pee.
Thanks for telling everyone. The live chat really appreciates that.
Everybody, I'm sure, really knows that matters.
Yeah. Hey, I will tell you this. If you would have walked in the door and had all that stuff ready to go at 9 o'clock, I kind of had in my mind I was going to talk to Kyle for a while. So you were going to get pushed out for a little bit anyway. But we're going to start the second half here with a super chat because I wanted to. I talked to this a little bit with Kyle, so I wanted to wait to ask this one to you. This is from Sean Manahan. $5 in the tip jar. Thank you, Sean. And he said, "Do Bro Scho think releasing Nelson was the right move? No trades and losing a fifth starter. Ouch." What do you think? The whole thing with Steven Nelson.
I'm sad.
Yeah,
because you and I for a couple of weeks have sat here and sung the praises of Steven Nelson, and he needed to stay. However, in my mind, what's ended up happening is he wanted to stay on very different terms than what the Steelers were comfortable with.
Yeah.
So at which point then, okay, he has to go then, and we'll figure out something else. Really?
What that comment
yes.
from our sister.
From our sister. Kyle's cuter to look at.
So,
well,
hey,
he's got a few years on me.
Yeah. So to come back to Steven Nelson, there's so much that's speculation. I know if I were to guess what would happen, but I don't have inside knowledge. I tried to gain a little bit. I'd had some conversations on Twitter with in direct messages with Steven Nelson earlier this offseason. He actually commented about Jeffrey's Mind Vertex about him. So I tried to reach out, but this was a really tough thing to talk about. So I don't have inside knowledge. I'm just merely speculating. But if I were to guess, my guess was I think the Steelers may have wanted to do an extension. Or who knows? Maybe they didn't want the extension. Maybe all they wanted was a lower contract for this year, and Nelson didn't like that. I would assume they would want to extend him because they'd want to keep him longer. But maybe that didn't happen. But if I were to guess, I would say the Steelers wanted to extend Nelson at a certain amount per year, and Nelson thought that's nowhere close to what I'm worth, and they weren't on the same page with his worth, and therefore. That's kind of a tough thing to handle when you're like, Nelson probably thinks he's, a top 5, top 10 corner. The Steelers look at him as he's the number 2 corner on the team. That's the difference. Like I say, this is all me speculating. But if that were to be the case,
that's all anybody can do except for the Steelers at this point.
That's where I could see why this started to fall apart. Now, some people said, it was reported that Nelson requested to be able to seek a trade. Then some people were saying the Steelers just told him he could seek a trade. I don't know if it was – I was operating under the assumption that he asked for it, but that may not have been the case. Bottom line is, when it came down to it, the Steelers couldn't go into this year with – They had to do something else to clear cap between now and September. And if you have no idea what you're going to do, you don't want to have to release a guy in July. because of the salary cap situation. You're better off knowing what you're doing now when it comes to working things out, even if it takes time. If it seemed like they were that far apart between the Steelers and Nelson, then he was going to be the guy to go. Because the guys that they could possibly extend are guys Joe Hayden, David DeCastro, Eric Ebron, and Steven Nelson. So I think because of their tight end situation, they probably, had Ebron higher on the list. I think it had everything to do with it being a really big salary cap hit, and B, 2 corners. Do you think it had anything to do that it was both corners?
Yeah, potentially played into it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually went to Nelson, looked to do it, wanted saying, hey, we need to lower some salary cap hits. The easiest way to do that is on an extension. We'd like to extend you. He didn't like the numbers, but it's the numbers we would have had to do to be able to reduce his cap hit for this year.
Yeah.
To which then he gets down to, well, probably, it could even got to the point where he's like, well, if you all think I'm worth this much later on, why am I not worth this much right now?
Yeah.
Totally not understood, totally not buying into all the cap implications that go onto it. At which point in time, he's like, then I want out. And which point the Steelers are like, well, gee whiz, if you don't even want to play for us on what you're scheduled to earn this year, then okay, you're out.
Well, I mean, bottom line is you never know exactly how it's going with every player. Like for example, this is completely made up. Okay. Completely made up. Just making sure you're going there. But let's say it was someone like Joe Hayden. They're like, hey, Joe, can we extend you? Can we get this number down? No, we can't. And they can't come to consensus on what to do. The Steelers were probably more likely to say, you know what, Joe, then we want you for just what you're at this year. And then that's going to be it. With Nelson, I don't think that they felt like they could say that to both corners. And if it's like, oh, we can't do an extension, the Steelers' bottom line is they couldn't have that over $14 million cap hit. So rather than be able to reduce that $8.25 million, they were just going to get it all back, but with no Steven Nelson. And I think it stinks. I thought he was a great free agent signing for them. The numbers weren't as good last year, but he was doing different things. And it could, I mean, you could say if the Steelers felt that they weren't getting that maybe they know their cost of replacement, and that's why they're saying that the $8.25 million was not worth it, especially if they feel really strongly about James Pierre or Justin Lane. If I was picking one of those two right now, I'm picking Pierre based on how they finished up the season.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Benedict says that Justin Lane was his style of being a corner fit when Sean Davis was the safety. And when the Steelers traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick, his style of playing corner doesn't fit, but James Pierre's style does. That's what Jeffrey says. So I could see that as well.
I can see where especially the amount of film I know Jeffrey breaks down, I could see where that would be the case.
Yeah. So that's what the Steelers have. It went from, I mean, maybe it got to a point where the Steelers feel like we have guys that are so good that aren't even getting on the field, but at the same time, they lost 2 of their top 3 corners, if you really look at it. Although I think they made the choice with Sutton over Hilton, but I'm just saying from a playing time standpoint of who the next one was on the field, Hilton was the next guy on before Sutton. So now how exactly they're going to do it, it'll be interesting to see. So I'm trusting. This might not be that the Steelers feel like they had a better option. It might have felt like they had no other option. If you know what I mean, they were kind of forced to do it. So we don't really know. It's a lot of speculation, but those are the possibilities. Anything else you want to say about that before we roll on?
Yeah, things can also play out that you have an inkling of being able to approach a player and do something a certain way, and you think it. They had an idea that we're going to be able to do and talk about this, and when it actually came down to it, the talk didn't go the way they thought it was supposed to go.
Yeah,
from the Steelers standpoint. They're like, whoa, we weren't expecting that reaction based on conversations we'd had with he or his agent or whoever before. Now suddenly, apparently, their position changed.
Yeah.
So the sides may have come to the table not on the same terms they thought they were coming to the table on.
Exactly. They were just I think that's a really good point. One thing I do want to say, one real quick, is an article that I had on the website this afternoon, and that was for those that are still pushing this narrative. No. The Steelers did not choose Juju Smith-Schuster over Steven Nelson. They are two unrelated things, even though the news broke of Nelson being allowed to seek a trade, and then the Juju re-signing right around the same time, even though the numbers looked the same because Juju signed 1 year, $8 million, Nelson would save him 8.25. And that doesn't include displacement, just so we know that. That's not how it worked out because of the void years they used for Juju. That cap number was nowhere close.
Yeah.
And the Steelers still had Nelson on the roster for how many days, even after they signed Juju.
Right.
And what I ultimately brought up in the article was change what happened with one of them, and does the other still occur? Meaning, if they would have worked out an extension with Nelson, would the Steelers have still signed Juju? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
They would have. Man, if Juju would not have signed with the Steelers, he would have gone to one of those other offers. Does that mean the Steelers wouldn't have tried to change Nelson's contract for this coming year? No, they were still going to try.
Yeah, they were still going to try to do that. Right.
That's why the two things, that's why it's not an either or. Because if you would have changed the outcome of one, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the other.
Correct.
They still would have done that. And that was my point. So we got another super chat here coming.
Yep.
Before we get into stuff, Sean Langford puts $5 into the tip jar. Thank you very much, Sean. And said, "What would you feel your worth is when you played better than the defensive player of the year and Stephon Gilmore?" I brought that up. That his numbers, with the exception of the interceptions, were on par with Gilmore's in 2019. Now the numbers. Now, if you want to say,
and I thought Gilmore was
okay,
not.
Go ahead.
Gilmore was not deserving of DPOY that year.
TJ Watt. He was by far so much more deserving that than Stephon Gilmore. Okay,
but you do have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, so you take consideration into the numbers. But here's the thing: you can't have it both ways. This is what I'm going to say when it comes to Nelson. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that the numbers were so great in 2019 he was on par with Stephon Gilmore, and then say that the numbers in 2020 didn't matter.
Right.
It's either he had really good numbers, but it just didn't equate to the same thing because of what he was doing, and that's why the numbers, even though they weren't as good in 2020, it had a lot to do with what the Steelers were asking him to do. You can't have it both ways. You can't say 1 year it is about the numbers and the other year that no, it really, and have an excuse for the numbers, if you know what I mean. So it's either got to be the same. It's got to be the same for both. It's either both or neither. So we've been talking an awful lot about.
I want to bring up a comment and make it. Okay. Thaddeus still says they're connected. The Nelson and Juju stuff. Thaddeus, I love you, man, but
you're wrong.
Yeah, look. I don't want to say Thaddeus. It's not that they're totally disconnected,
because every signing and every release is all mildly connected, but it wasn't a one-for-one.
Connected, but
it wasn't a one-for-one.
I think correct, and I think Dave made the right point that changing one does not necessarily mean it would have changed the other. That's how you say you can't say that they're connected.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe a word that is, you can holler back out there if you think maybe the word I would say is not connected, but maybe there was some influence.
There was some maybe. Because dollars in and dollars out, regardless of name, is going to be there.
Correct.
They're going to be connected, but they weren't equivalent. They weren't equivalent. They weren't. Correct. It wasn't a one-to-one connection. Right. So that's the thing. Because like I even brought up, I mean, you realize that Zach Banner is counting more on this year's salary cap than Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yes,
That's crazy.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing the salary cap articles, which I have to do another one for tomorrow because of Juju and Nelson, to update those numbers. But it never really dawned on me that, the way they did that. So I do need to get to ask you the main question of the show, but we got another super chat. So we're going to go with it.
Put
With
it out
Sean
there.
Manahan.
Go with it.
$5 in the tip jar. Says, all things being equal, grades being the same, what position would you pick with 24? You can go ahead and answer because I'm going to give a Dave answer.
But I love the way he phrased it. All things being equal grades, what position would I rather go for? I'm torn.
Yeah. Go ahead and say it. I don't think it'll be all things being equal, but you're saying, hey, you're going to have an equal grade on every player at every position, so you could pick whichever position you want and get a great player. What position are you taking?
That's not necessarily any position, but he's thinking if things come down to a few positions and you got guys graded equally, I might have leaned to a wonderful ILB to put in there next to Devin Bush. But believe it or not, Chisap for the win today might have me convinced.
Oh, he had a good article today about running back, didn't he?
That if you could get Etienne or Najee Harris, why would you not? And I'm starting to he's like, I don't want to say that I'm so completely on it, but he opened that window back up for me with his article. So if you've not gone on the website and read the article from KT Smith, what I will always forever call Chisap, go read it because it was a good article and he had some nice film in there breaking down these two running backs and saying, you think about Matt Canada and Matt Canada's offense, and here's what these guys could bring, and it's like,
Yeah. My thing is, I'm not for a first round running back just because of the longevity. For that, regardless of player, I'm saying all things considered, me being who I am, I would go offensive line because they need help there. You can talk about being a player that's really locked in longer term, and it's me. But really, my Dave answer to that question is we still can't answer that because I'm going to lead right into what I asked Kyle.
Go ahead.
Because what it really comes down to is the Steelers need to make some other moves before the draft.
Yes.
So what can we expect? Because they're not going to leave. I've talked about it in the past. You and I have mentioned about it. The Steelers like to draft for a big need, not this year, but the following year.
Right.
They like to set up their team. And like I said, just because you have a player that then can earn his way to be better than your other options, the Steelers don't like to go into the draft with, oh my goodness, we have no option at, I'll just make it up, center. We have to draft one. That's not the way they like to do stuff. They like to have options, and then they like to use the draft to improve those options, if you know what I mean, and look for things that are really going to be a big deal the following year. Like, come on. If they lost Juju, they had Chase Claypool. If they lost Bud, they had Alex Highsmith. Things like that. So what kind of moves are you looking for? Kyle gave us some. What kind of moves do you think they're going to do?
Good, because I wasn't able to hear what he said, so I don't know what he said. Here's what I'm thinking, which, of course, first I'll give my Dave answer, and then I'll get more specific. Okay. My first Dave answer, which is been my Dave answer on some things from before. It's like, well, wouldn't it be nice if we've got 3 or 4 positions and we can wait for one of those guys that fall, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this stud guy at this position fell, and we're just going to take him.
Because you don't have to go somewhere else.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, it is, if you got the stud ILB that you could then grab to pencil in next, yes, back to Denver, or if you've got, I'm getting into my specifics now.
Yeah.
Thinking for next year.
Yeah.
If a great corner is sitting there, you can't pass on. I think that's where I'm going because you're done. Because Joe Hayden's contract's up.
Which could change between now and then, but as of right now,
Correct. It could change between now and then. But that's a position you could look at. I'm not sold at looking at quarterback at that spot, but
unless someone
if you
falls
stumble
all the way down there,
if you stumble into another situation where somebody falls way further than you thought, and you end up with another Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger situation, why would you not?
Then
that's
why the Steelers need to poise themselves, that they don't have to say, everyone's like, well, the Steelers, they're really recruiting, or going to the pro days, really looking into these running backs. It looks like they're really going to be heavy at going running back. That's not what the Steelers seem to do. But like I said to Kyle, if they pick up a free agent running back, I don't see the need to draft one. So I don't know that the Steelers are going to add. I mean, if they're going to do that, but I don't think they're going to set themselves up to have to take a position at a certain point in the in the first round of the draft, because you'd much be able to take a be available for. I mean, I'm sorry, if one of those running backs is there and they want to take them, take them. But I'll give you a prime example. I was running a mock draft. I stopped because it messed up my whole draft because I didn't know what to do. And in this one mock draft, no joke, the number 7 overall player was available at 24. It was tight end Kyle Pitts.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, you're going to take that pick if it's sitting there.
Correct.
Someone that's that good that for some reason you didn't expect to be there. Like they didn't expect Rod Woodson to be there when they were drafting that season. I'm going to mess up. I was going to say the year like Brian does, but I know I'd mess it up, so I'm not going to. And you want to set yourself up to that, to where you're like, oh my goodness, there's this amazing player. Oh, but we've got to grab our name that position.
Right.
So that's why
that's how we ended up with Ben Roethlisberger. We weren't planning on picking a quarterback.
Yeah.
But there was no way they were going to pass on him.
Yeah. But at the same time, if the Steelers make a move for a quarterback, the reason that would not shock me is because what would they be doing? Drafting for 2022's needs.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what they did last year. So it wouldn't shock me. But at the same time, that's not what I'm banking on them doing. So it's funny because the draft can play out in so many different ways. So what positions do you think the Steelers are going to need to add between now and the draft? What do you really see that you think that they're going to have
We're going to see some more movement on the offensive line.
Yes, I could see that.
You can say what you want. I really wouldn't be surprised if eventually we saw Big Al back in the black and gold.
Kyle and I talked about that one. He said he wouldn't, only if it's a really good cheap deal.
Correct. Good cheap deal. Say, Al, do you want to play another year? If you want to play another year and you can give us a decent deal so we can continue to do work, we get it. Some folks are bringing up in there, inside or outside linebacker.
I think it's outside linebacker because
I would agree. I think it's outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Could very much see that. Thaddeus is asking, hey,
that's a great question.
Do we bring back Vince Williams? Potentially, yes.
Well, I mean, no, because he's saying is if they would have cut Nelson first, do they need to cut Vince Williams? Maybe Vince Williams, I think, was more of a combination of money and what they're wanting to do at the position.
Correct.
I mean, so I wouldn't be. I love Vinny Vici. I would love for him to be back on the Steelers, and who knows? Maybe if this would have gone down with Nelson first, he might have still been there. But at the same time, if he was going to be someone they had to cut eventually, you do it now and give him a chance to catch on with the team before the draft. So, but that was a really good question.
Yeah, so it really is.
Yeah. Sean throws in another $5. He says he did a mock draft. Asante Samuel Jr. was at 24 in this 24 in the second round. Oh, no, he's at 24. And Najee was there. Round,
Najee Harris was still there.
Oh, dude, I got Williams out of North Carolina in the third round in one mock draft. It was crazy. I'm like, that would have been like a dream come true because I really like him. So they have other things we need to do.
Hard. Okay. Here's why things are so difficult right now. Okay. Because we're trying to speculate on what the Steelers can do in the draft when we know the Steelers are still going to do some more work in free agency. You're also in all these mock drafts thinking about what other teams are going to draft. Guess what? a lot of those other teams still have things they need to do in free agency first. So everybody's trying to play everything out. That's why it's so hard to figure out exactly how drafts are going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Because and that's my point, is things are going to change between now and the draft. They can't go into the draft with this roster the way it is right now. You are going to see, even if it's minimum deal guys, even if it's, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's not going to be the big splashy free agent signing. They're going to have to add. You've got names at outside linebacker you can bring back. Not Ola Denier, he went to Tennessee, but you have guys like, if you just need depth bodies to then come to camp and then see if they make the team based off of stuff with the draft and your undrafted rookie free agents, you've got guys like J-Ron Elliott, like Cassius Marsh that you could look to try to bring back if they're not hopping on with other teams right now. Sure. Those are some of the moves I could see them definitely doing. Things like that. We are down to only a few minutes left, so we got to ask our big question, and I got it this week. Okay,
can I have one quick question for you? And this can be a very quick response. What did you think about what happened with the Steelers at the Georgia Pro Day?
Were they? Bottom line, for those of you that don't know, you're talking about the wide receiver, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yes. What it is because pro days were canceled last year, teams could go that aren't under contract with anyone in the NFL could go back to their college and participate in the pro days this year. That's what's going on. So this was a player, he was a wide receiver out of Georgia, that he was on the practice squad, some with the Houston Texans this past year, but he didn't sign a futures contract or anything, wasn't under contract with anyone. So he was at the Georgia Pro Day, talked apparently with Kevin Colbert, boom, brought him in for the minimum. I mean, he's not even the top 51 on salary cap. So I'm like, love it. Love something like that. Take a flyer on something like that.
Yep. So, okay, now we can get to the question.
Okay.
Go.
This is it. I want you all to put it, just list. What is one position that the Steelers are going to sign a player between now and the draft? One position. And I already put it in the live chat. Rich, what's your one position?
Offensive tackle.
You think they will sign yet another offensive tackle? My one position is outside linebacker. They will add an outside linebacker. That was
my second pick.
Yep, for sure. Okay. Robert says center. He thinks, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they're saying, if we had to get by with BJ Finney, I'm not saying it's a good situation, but if the Steelers are saying this is what's going to happen if we don't get someone in the draft. Ramon Foster always said, Coach Tomlin, he loved him some Finney. He was shocked that he left and didn't sign with the Steelers last year. So Guy Rose says running back. Okay. We've got Robert again says center. That's what Blitzberg says. Cree, where'd it go? I lost it. I skipped.
Sorry. Here's Cree.
Okay. Cree agrees with me at OLB. Same with Ryan. He's got OLB. Reginald says OLB. Mark says
Somebody
OT.
Agreed. Yep. He agreed with me.
Yep.
Thank you.
The other Mark Tobin says center. Jessica says running back. I still say if they add running back in free agency, then they won't draft one. But we'll see. I could see that they could, and I could see that they wouldn't. Right. Okay. Steel Dog says tackle. I'm assuming he's going to meet offensive tackle. Justin Conway says OLB. Steeler Chick, offensive tackle. Tyler W. center. Thaddeus. Corner.
I like it. No. I could definitely
see that.
And so
Zachariah said it as well.
Says corner. Yep. Couple guys for the corner.
Because I think they're going to add multiple ones, but I'm just saying pick one that you would do. Okay. Pittsburgh even goes specific to say center from the Ravens. Kyle goes general and says offensive line.
Yeah. Way to give an Uncle Dave answer there, Kyle.
Yes, I love it. Okay. While I'm at it, so I don't lose it, I'm going to go ahead and do a super chat real quick. $5 super chat from Kyle Smith says, in my opinion, they need to get a vet cornerback. Cannot start Lane or a rookie on the outside, and Sutton is best in the slot. Prediction: Malcolm Butler, 1 year, $6 million. I could see that. I could see they are so high on James Pierre. I could see them doing something with him. I don't know what their answer is. I don't. I'm hoping they have one because, like I said, the Nelson thing could have thrown them more for a loop than anything else so far this offseason. Okay. Sherry says, does that sound good to you, Rich?
Yeah,
is that a good answer?
It did.
I didn't even give you a chance to answer it. Okay.
No. You were nailing it.
Okay.
So go with it.
Okay. Tom says he tries to do two. I'm only reading the first one.
Linebacker.
Okay. Pino, cornerback. Okay. Derwin, center. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Carlos Smith says tight end that they could add the tight end there. Steeler fan 74 was right behind him with tight end. Okay. Just me says tight end. See, good thinking. Good thinking. Yep. Okay. Mr. Marcus says running back. Cam Troy says center. Chad says tight end. Okay.
One thing
Ron gave us a specific player of Sean James.
Todd
says running back. Big Mo says guard.
Yeah. Okay.
Stacy says tight end. Clarence says center. Okay. WHH, I love it. Says, I have no idea. It's a crapshoot now. Offensive line or OLB equal length. Okay. I could actually see them not adding for I could see not offensive line because of the player that the tackle they picked up over the weekend.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially. Okay. It skipped on me. Bill and Gina forever says center. Okay. John says inside linebackers. Okay. And I agree with this one right here. The Dark Storm one says nobody who starts, depth stuff only.
Yeah. That's what I figured.
Unless they do go corner. That's one that I could see as a possibility, but otherwise I think you're talking depth with a lot. Or center. Center they could pick up a starter if they could. Sean says defensive tackle. Ron goes specific with center. Austin Blight. That is who is on the way? Is that Michael Beck's guy that he wants him to pick up now? Someone says that.
I don't remember.
Eric says Jordan Dangerfield. I don't know with the Killebrew signing if that's going to be the case or not. Like I said, we've got Killebrew Steelers Vertex coming tomorrow. Pedro says tight end. Reginald says would lose the comp pick. Not necessarily. Not if you're signing one of your own guys. Not if you're signing at the league minimum. But he might be specifically addressing one of the other comments. I'm not sure. Okay. Capo, I guess, says running back. Kathy says offensive line. $5 in the tip jar from Clinton Williams. $5. Thank you. Says first time catching a live show. Second generation Steelers fan from Mississippi. I think we may sign a veteran running back. I could see it.
Okay, good choice there. I could see it. And Clinton, welcome to coming in, catching a live show.
They're fun.
I hope you realize these things can be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So, I like. Okay, you get that one. I got one I want to bring up.
How do I say? Is that? I
never
always
ender.
Never ender. Thank you. He thinks possibly outside linebacker. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, you got another one?
Well, awesome stuff.
Jesse James. I'm fine.
You know why? Because all he does is catch that ball.
He catches the ball. He catches touchdowns to beat the Patriots.
Yeah, that's right.
Stupid Al River on. Okay. Thaddeus says we lost a comp pick when we re-signed Juju. That's not the case. It's not that you lost it. It's that you had one you might have possibly gained. You can't bank on them until you like. I kept trying to tell Michael Beck, all the comp picks. I'm like, they have no comp picks before March 15th because nobody's left. Don't bank on the comp picks until the players sign.
Correct.
Again. That's just me. Okay. So, hey, lots of great time and really enjoyed talking with Kyle. I hope you enjoyed listening to Kyle. Hope everyone enjoyed that as a little bit of a different show. Glad I still got to come back and spend time with my big brother. Man, I got the best of both worlds today. People probably would rather just listen to you and Kyle and had me take off. So, but make sure you're checking out all the well, when you guys were sharing a computer, that didn't work.
We don't have to share a computer.
Yeah. Well,
we've got more computers in this house.
So stop it. Make sure you're checking out all the podcasts. Make sure you're going to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. You mentioned Kevin's article today about running back. I had the article that explained why it wasn't Juju or Nelson.
Was another good article.
Yeah, we had other stuff in there. I've got salary cap up. I had one on today, but don't worry about it because there'll be a new one tomorrow. We got the Vertex on Miles Killebrew coming tomorrow from Jeffrey and I. Always got lots of good content coming there. And of course, we'll keep coming at you. We'll let you know when the signings happen. We'll continue to break it down between now and the draft. Looking forward to the draft even more now as this team takes shape. And hopefully you don't have meeting next week. We'll be here the whole time. And see you next Tuesday.
Can't wait.